All right, let's step into a different kind of world today. One that's defined not just by what you hear, but by what you feel right beneath the surface. We're diving into a sound, an aesthetic, a feeling called dark velvet. And right off the bat, that tells you this is something more. It's not just a category you pick on your streaming service. It's the space that lives somewhere between seduction and sovereignty, between silk and steel, between a confession and having total control. And this quote just perfectly paints the picture of the atmosphere, doesn't it? I mean, imagine that room. It's intimate, it's hazy, and the very foundation of the sound, that bass, it sets the terms before a single word is even spoken. Everything here is intentional. So before we break down the nuts and bolts of how the sound is made, we really have to understand that core essence. We've got to get a feel for the mood inside that candlelit room. Okay, so what's really interesting here is how dark velvet positions itself against genres we all know. If you think of trap as the sound of raw, unapologetic hunger, and R&B as often being the sound of deep longing, well, dark velvet is something else entirely. It's about choosing restraint. All the power comes from what is held back, not from what's desperately put on display. And that restraint, it creates this incredibly specific emotional palette. It's the feeling of desire, but without any pleading. It's pain, but without collapsing. It's pleasure, but without the chaos. It's all about a quiet, elegant kind of dominance, a power that knows it can wait because it doesn't need to rush. So how is this mood actually built? Well, it's not an accident. It's constructed, piece by piece, on a very deliberate sonic foundation. So let's deconstruct its DNA. It all starts here, with the tempo. We're talking 68 to 96 beats per minute. This is slow. It's the pace of a slow pulse, and it creates this feeling of heavy air. Every single beat feels intentional, like it was placed there for a very specific reason. And the drums, well, they aren't here to make you dance. They're here to make you feel. The 808 sub-bass is deep, yeah, but it's softened, it's padded, almost like a heartbeat. The snares don't crack. They just kind of exhale with what's called a velvet reverb tail. Everything is sparse. It's a rhythm you feel in your chest more than you hear with your ears. And then you have the instruments layered on top to create this incredible texture. We're talking about pianos that are just slightly off key, cinematic strings, warm synth pads. But notice the more organic stuff. Textures literally made from breath and whispered harmonics. So it's minimal, but at the same time, it's incredibly rich and just full of shadow. This right here, this is the key to the entire production philosophy. The empty space between the notes is just as important as the notes themselves. See, silence isn't just an absence of sound. It's an instrument in its own right, used to build tension and power. It's what makes you lean in closer. So we have the atmosphere and we have the sound. Now for our third section, let's bring in the human element, the voice. In Dark Velvet, the vocal isn't just there to sing a melody. It's delivering a message from a very, very specific point of view. The core of the Dark Velvet voice is this complete self-possession. It never asks for your attention. It feels absolutely no need to justify its presence or its desires. It operates from a position of total self-assurance. It doesn't need to prove a thing because it simply is. So let's look at the specifics of how that confidence comes across. The tone is low, it's controlled, it's intimate. It almost feels like it's right next to your ear. Sometimes it's spoken, sometimes it's half sung. And sometimes the sound of a breath is more important than any lyric. Even the ad-libs are less about hype and more like these subtle, confident commands. And the lyrics? They explore themes of complete emotional self-ownership, what the source calls emotional sovereignty. Basically, it means the character is entirely in control of their own feelings and actions, never a victim. It's about power dynamics without being exploitative and creating this tension without being crude. It's the sound of quiet revenge, of a luxurious, minimal existence. And this line it perfectly sums the whole thing up. The lyrics create a space, an atmosphere, a world, and then they just wait for you to enter it. There's no pursuit, only attraction. Now, a world this specific doesn't just exist in sound. So in our final section, we're going to see how this sound and the message extend into a complete visual and cultural identity. The visual palette is exactly what you'd expect: deep, rich, and luxurious. We're talking colors like plum, wine red, and midnight blue, all anchored by black velvet. And the lighting isn't bright and harsh. It's a warm amber glow, like candlelight, mixed with these deep violet shadows. And what's so fascinating is how this core DNA can kind of mutate. You have temple velvet, which leans into ritual drums. Urban velvet blends it with minimalist trap for this luxury nightlife feel. Velvet noir brings in jazz chords for a crime drama energy. And then silk and steel introduces industrial sounds to express a kind of controlled rage. The identity is just so strong that it can support all these different variations. So we end here with the ultimate summary. Dark velvet is a statement of confidence so profound that it doesn't need to shout. It's that presence that changes the energy of a room just by walking into it. And I guess the real question it leaves us with is, in a world that's getting louder every single day, what is the true power of quiet intensity?